Hello, this video is for Chapter 2 of our ethics reading for this week, and it is a story about Allison and Dave. So, if you have the text in front of you, this is from page 25 and 26. I'm going to read the story and then summarize what happens, because it's not as clear when it's read out loud. "No, madame, may not drive this way," explained the officer, who with the nicest smile had just waved them to a stop. Allison looked at her husband Dave, sitting beside her in the car, who just shrugged. They'd recently arrived in this town for the next big leg of their tour of the world's more exotic spots. "But you just let another car go by a minute before," Allison said, turning back to the policeman. "Don't much speak English," the policeman said, "but cannot drive this road." Dave and Allison stared at the man, who was smiling still more broadly than before. "I cannot let drive. I sometimes only let officials." Dave continued staring for a moment, and then suddenly gave Allison a knowing look. Pulling out his passport, he placed a 5-pound note on top. "Oh, then it's okay," he said to the officer. "We're visiting officials. Here, see my papers." Reaching in front of Allison and over to the window, he carelessly dropped the money out of the window while holding open his passport. The policeman swiftly caught the fluttering money and pocketed it, and glanced for a moment at the passport. Then, still smiling, he stepped back and waved. "Good, madame. You are official. You have right this way," he said, not giving them another glance. Allison drove a mile, and then shot a curious look at her husband. "When in Rome, do as the Romans," he said, forcing a little laugh. "And just how much do you think we should act like Romans anyhow?" Allison retorted. "Live and let live," Dave muttered. "Let's just forget about it." "But I don't like that sort of thing, and I hate to waste money," Allison said, more heatedly than she intended. As an afterthought, she added, "You know, Dave, men in this culture have several wives. I wouldn't be surprised if that policeman had a couple, and I don't care for the way he looked at me. I hope you won't tell me that polygamy's okay, too." Trying to laugh it off, Dave commented, "Well, my dear, it has its attractions." "That," Allison spat out as she floored the accelerator, "is not funny." All right, so what's going on in this story? So the important things to keep in mind are that Dave and Allison are on a trip, and they end up in a situation where, to drive down the road that they want to drive down, Dave decides to bribe the police officer who'd stopped them. And then the other part of the story that's going to be applicable to the questions that are coming up on the next slide have to do with polygamy. So the way it was presented in the story, it was a joke where Allison said, "Look, if you think that bribery is okay, they also practice polygamy in this country. So polygamy is having more than one wife. It's contrasted with monogamy, which is having only one wife or husband. Polygamy is having multiple wives or husbands." Okay? So what's happening in the second half of the story is Allison is pointing out to Dave that they also practice polygamy in this country, and that he can't think that that's true. And then it sort of ends with a joke where he says that it certainly has its advantages, and she gets upset at him. It's supposed to be funny, I think. So, anyway, that is the story, and following from it, I would like you to answer these 3 questions. Even if this officer society accepts bribery, suppose Dave doesn't. Does this make it morally right or wrong for Dave to bribe the officer? Now, second question. Which is morally better, monogamy or polygamy? Is this just your society's view, or can you provide reasons for your position? Then question 3. The text asks why bribes are seldom acknowledged, even in places where they're widely used. How do you answer this? So what this third question is asking is that, look, even in places where bribes are common, they're very seldomly acknowledged. So why is this? That is the third question.